Welcome back. Hopefully you'll get something out of this video if you play the 4-night Scotch or play into the 4-night Scotch at any point. I've been trying to play it, but it requires my opponent making certain opening moves in order for me to get there. But I did play it in a blitz game recently, and the following video is me trying to figure out what went wrong in that game. So here we go. Okay, in this position, this is the 4-night Scotch. This is what we reached after 4 moves. I'm trying it. I think this is only my 3rd or 4th time intentionally playing this opening after being recommended to me by you, trying to figure out what went wrong. I've run the game review here on Chess, and it says that my opponent didn't make any mistakes. As we know, I'm not going to win games where my opponent doesn't make any mistakes, no blunders, just a handful of inaccuracies, but I made mistakes, and I'm trying to figure out what they were. In this position, I expected my opponent to take this pawn. That's what Stockfish says is the top move, and in the book, that is the most common move. 91% of people take this pawn right here. That's the Masters database. What about Chess? 71% of people take this pawn in the Chess players database, but they didn't. My opponent played the 3rd most popular move, or the second best move according to the engine, which was to put the bishop out here. And here I played the inaccuracy of taking this pawn. I wasn't supposed to take that. My best move was to take that pawn with my knight. But then they would have taken this pawn and I would have taken back. Well, again, I've only played it a handful of times, so I didn't know what to do when they played here. But now I know I'm supposed to take this pawn with my knight, not with my pawn. That's inaccurate. But I was still doing okay here. My opponent is supposed to take that pawn. No, my opponent is supposed to take this pawn because my other knight is pinned. Okay, and that's what they did. And now I'm supposed to play bishop to d2. No, that's the most common move in the database. What I'm supposed to play here is a3 to encourage this and double my pawns here. Then wouldn't they take this? It says that they wouldn't. It says that they would play d5 at that point, even though looks like they could pick off a free pawn. So I should have played a3 here. But I did play the most common move, which was to defend that knight with my bishop, and they're supposed to go ahead and take the knight here. My opponent played an inaccuracy by taking my knight, and I'm supposed to take back with the pawn, according to Stockfish, but 80% of people here take back with the bishop. I took back with my pawn, so I was doing okay. All right, let's get to the point where I lost this. They did that, we're about even. Bishop to c4 is among my moves. Castling is among their best moves. Castling is my best move. d5 is among their best moves. Taking with en passant is okay, according to the engine, which I did. They're supposed to take back with their queen, which they did. And now I'm supposed to just back this bishop up. Okay, that makes sense. Then I guess the bishops, that would keep the queen from pointing here, I guess, because those bishop and pawn would defend each other, and this bishop would be defending that pawn. I went the other way. I just backed up this way, which that's inaccurate. Okay, but we're still okay. Not among their best moves, but they still have a very slight advantage. We're out of book now, even in the player's database. Interesting. This wasn't horrible. That wasn't horrible, despite being inaccurate. We're still very close to even. h3's okay here. b6. I'm not sure why they played that, but they did. Maybe they wanted to defend the bishop. Maybe they wanted to keep me from... I don't know. Okay, here, the next 2 moves is where it went wrong, and that's what I came to figure out. It says I'm supposed to play queen to e2. Okay, I guess I get that. It gets us out of this line, and both my queen and my knight would still be defending that bishop. Also, it would, I suppose, allow me to bring my other rook over this way. Okay, that makes sense. Or I could have just taken their bishop and we would have been close to even. Or I could have played rook to e3. I'm not sure what rook to e3 would do other than help protect this pawn, or maybe to get in front of this bishop. But I played that. What was I thinking? I was thinking that if they took, I took back, my pawn would be in the way of this battery. And yes, they could take the pawn, but then I could get their bishop. And if they stopped to take that, I could get my queen out of the way, one way or the other. It was their best move to take, and then my best move was to take back with the pawn. Why didn't I do that? That was my plan, wasn't it? At least in retrospect, I think that was my plan, but instead I did that. You know what I was thinking? I remember what I thought now. Okay, I thought they were going to take here with the queen or with the pawn, and then I would do this. But the problem with that is that they can take that with the knight. Okay, I get it. That's what I wanted to figure out, but that's not related to the 4-night Scotch. That's related to me not understanding or not being able to see that once the knight got here, then it would be defending that spot. In fact, once the knight got here, I still didn't think that it could defend that spot. I mean, obviously I know that it can, but I missed that. All right, I understand that. So I think I will try the 4-night Scotch again in the future when I get a chance. Again, it requires my opponent making those 3 exact first moves and then for me to play this. If my opponent, that's the problem with these kind of openings, is that, well, even on move 1, my opponent doesn't have to play e5. They could play the Sicilian, they could play the Caro-Kann, they could play the whatever one of those things are, the Pirates or the French or the Scandinavian. But they did play that, so I got the knight out. But then they played the Petrov's defense. And I think here I probably should have just taken the pawn, but I thought, you know what, I'll just do this and see if they play into the 4 knights, which they did. But again, they don't have to. But if we get to this position again, of course, I will play d5 and see what happens. I do know if they take the pawn, I'm supposed to take back with the knight, and they're probably not going to play here. They're probably going to get the bishop out. But they might, and if they do, then I can take it back with my queen. But instead, they got the bishop first, and in that case, I'm supposed to take this pawn with my knight. Okay, I'm going to remember that. Hopefully this helped you if any of you are starting to learn this opening or are thinking about it. And then, of course, we know that my real problem did not come until much later, which was right here, where I'm up slightly, and I just need to get my queen out of the way of this battery, and I would have been okay. It says, had I played that, my opponent probably... You know what, I'm just going to move it and see what the engine suggests for my opponent here. It says bishop to d5 is their best move. I suppose still asking for the trade, but they're not going to trade here. If they move here, that's the reason I put it there, is if they ever brought that bishop out, I could undouble my pawns with that trade. So my opponent doesn't want to trade. They could go, wait, it says their second best move is to put it back. That's what Stockfish says. Or move it back 1. Okay, but what does this do? This is aiming for my knight, I guess? Or getting out of the way of this rook. And it says I should play bishop to g5 attacking that rook. And then they would take my knight. Really? Why wouldn't they just push this pawn forward? No. They only have 2 moves. Wait, that keeps us close to even? Am I reading that right? Bishop captures? No. That's c3. Wait, no, that's their top move. Okay. But that keeps us close to even though they're forking my rooks. Okay. Oh, but I get to take one of theirs. Okay, so I would take theirs and they would take one of mine? No, they would take this one. And my best move would be to take here because they're threatening my queen. So I'll threaten their queen, but they're going to take mine and then I'm going to take theirs. And then they're going to get one of my rooks and I'm going to get their bishop back and we're dead even. Well, if I didn't say it already, thank you for spending your time here. Hopefully you're getting better at chess as I'm trying to do. And I'll see you next time.